I'm glad to welcome 4 people. Taj, you know, the joke with Taj is I never know how to pronounce his name, even if we know each other for something like 10 years. So I'm sure it will be a total failure again.
Please do so.
Taj beer sticker.
Yeah,
Not
better.
That bad? Okay. You are an artist, designer. You create artworks, science and data-driven. You are an artist and environmentalist. And we will discover the way you influence the world. What is funny is that you refuse to be part of the art market. You don't want to be represented by an art gallery. This is not your world. And how you do things apart from the art market is interesting. Miriam, you're the head of Nature and Biodiversity Partnerships at UNESCO. Sometimes when we have speakers from UNESCO, there are more speakers from education or cultural side, but we know that the environment is very important, and you are the great supporter of art and culture, and you experiment a very fertile dialogue between, you know, nature, culture, and art, and you will tell us more about that. Samuel, it's not, you know, I present this way, no, not alphabetical. Samuel, you're kind of, sometimes people call me to talk about Samuel, said, he might be a genius. Was he diagnosed as a genius? So this is your reputation, to be a kind of genius, as a genuine dream of collective dynamic. You will talk about the Entertainment plus Culture Pavilion that you have co-founded, and which is playing a very important role today, especially in COP Climate, in UNFCCC world, the UN Climate World, to recognize arts and culture as part of climate action. And Alexandre Capelli, that I know for a very long time. I met you when you were an engineer on eco-design, and now you are the Deputy Director Environment of LVMH. You will tell us more about how a luxury, group consider the ecological transition as a cultural transition, and how you see artists and creativity as part of the shift of narratives. Thank you for being here, and thank you also for supporting this event, as well as Garance Primat, who is also a supporter of this event. So we will start with you. I will not say your name again.
You can try.
Because I might fail. And with you, and people might be surprised when you will see an artwork in Davos. And it's important to understand that you want to bring awareness, a new mindset, not only towards the general public, but big decision makers, including head of states.
That's amazing. Okay, before I start, I want one applause for Alice. Come on. And I think a lot of people here in this room wouldn't be here because of Alice, without Alice. A lot of careers wouldn't be here because of you, and it's great to acknowledge you. When I did my first ever museum show and gallery show, actually, it was at Fondation Cartier here, and somebody just walked in while we were building up the artwork, and she started asking all these questions. I'm like, come on, I just need to focus, because the scientist is coming, Stefano Mancuso is coming, he needs to verify the science, and then we need to bring this artwork alive. And that person was Alice, because somehow she talked her way into the garden while we're building up. And that's still something I do. I work with scientists all over the world, working on ecological issues. We work with data partners like UNESCO, like the World Health Organization, different universities, and we bring the science alive, because I believe something really frustrating is we're running out of time. We're running out of time, and there's one big issue. Science is really clear. The solutions are all here. But why is the action lacking? And if we, with our talent as artists, can do something, that's the part where we can speak to a general audience. But how do you engineer that? So wait, let me see if you actually click. So this is still the work at Foundation Cartier. But what I truly believe is that if something is unimaginable, it becomes unactionable. And what we're trying to do is, I try to implement this in spheres of policy and spheres of the public. Now, it might get a little technical, because I spend 80% of my time working with scientists and trying to get the scientifically based works that we do into policy spheres, like the World Economic Forum, with UNESCO, and like the World Health Organization, different conferences, different places where it can reach powerful audiences. Now, the other 80%, and I'm not really good at math, but I think it does add up. The other 80% I spend with my team crafting the work day in, day out, to bring that data alive. And a lot of the data is unimaginable. So I think a work that we did together with LVMH, with UNESCO, and with the World Economic Forum is we brought alive this unimaginable scale of deforestation and reforestation going on. Because we shouldn't forget, and I always try to build in this nudge of hope, deforestation is accelerating, reforestation is also happening. And if we do not appreciate what's going on, we lose hope. So I always build in these two things. And this work that we created, it had a great audience this beginning of the year. So we had a 12-meter sculpture hanging out of the center of the World Economic Forum, the center of power. And every leaf that you can see here disappearing, it's 100 square meters of rainforest, or forest disappearing on the globe, loading in real-time data. Every leaf that's appearing, it's 100 square meters coming back. So you have this push and this pull being in the center of power, where a lot of people that don't like to talk about the environment pushed out all the environmental agenda, except for us. We were there in the center of power, talking about nature, giving a voice to nature. And now you can imagine these things get a lot of press. So globally, the press was crowding around this. But the actual reality was this. For those who don't see it, that's Donald Trump standing there. Now, I'm happy, right? If he looks depleted and walks away from this thing. And because we're in a bit of an art space, it's nice to say, like, they turned the whole room green for me. And if you know a little bit of color theory, orange and green do not go well together. So every time I had a little love. But it's fun, right? But what I actually want to see is this. It's Sonia. It's Sonia in front of the artwork that we also developed. And what I really appreciate about having the conversation with both of these humans is that they have the same driver, because they know something that we know really well in this audience, is that facts do not move people, emotions do. And that is something that we can harvest, because art has the power to use the emotions. And if we then can channel that into policy, into policymakers, empower them with everything they need, then we can make the art and the change and the impact that we all crave for. So that's the 80% of my work. And one of the great examples that we did together with, again, the three people here, is we went to the COP15, where we had a place in negotiations. So we had...
COP15, for the people who don't know it, it's the COP for biodiversity, as we have one for climate, there are COP for biodiversity.
Yeah, and I think you can see a global pull towards the CBD, the biodiversity COP, because climate is being cancelled all over, policies are shifting, and biodiversity is accessible. So this was an important work. What you can see is we had the negotiators negotiating our future of our planet, and we had the people from the Earth Navigation Bulletin in there tracking. Every time something happened, they sent it to the scientists on site from the Natural History Museum, and they were tracking, is it going well or not? Now, what we did is, if it was going well, we had this giant artwork moving up. We're making progress. Calculating in real time what's the impact on biodiversity globally and how can you show it. So the first time, I think it's like everybody dealing with art for the first time, which a lot of policymakers are. It's like, oh, that's weird, that's art. The second day, they understood it, and then we got into the global press briefing. The third day, Marianne emailed me, it's like, you have to speak in front of UN, do not forget about that. And then we actually got into the global press, and then people started coming, are we making progress? Because they need a visual tool. People are lining up as an interview background to make this work. And that's the work that we try to do, it's me, my team, all the scientists that we emphasize, is how do we turn that complexity of science into something that is really compelling to share, and compelling to compelling to leak into policy. And I'm briefing really quickly to Risa. And a good part that we just discovered is we're working on the food systems right now. So we connected a tree, a chocolate tree, in real time with all its data, to a living digital twin in the museum in China where they sell the actual chocolate, and bringing these supply chains alive, showing how fragile these connections are. So when it's drinking really fast, when it's raining in Java in real time, it actually shows that in the sculpture, making it sort of Tamagotchi of that. And I'm going to skip a few because I talked a bit in the beginning. It's fine. And so it became this emotional token. I think we need that more, because this is the moment where it was changing the climate rapidly in Java. The investors of the company here started to migrate money towards climate resilience, which is the part that we need to do, which I really enjoy. Then you can see the real-time impact of what we're actually trying to do. Another piece that we did with the Villare Institute in Heidi is talk about glaciers, where we took 200 data sets real time and converting that into a model where you can see how quick the glaciers are disappearing right now. It's the memories of the melted. And this basic framework, we had 5 different artworks coming out of it. One is just a beautiful version like this, high res. The other one was a concert that we did with the best violinist in the world, Songa, where we don't have sound, but you can imagine. When she was playing and every note was moving onto her rhythm. So we took her to the socio-economic pathways. So basically it's, do we keep using fossil fuels? Do we keep doing nothing? Do we choose a more sustainable road? And we turned that into pieces of Bach together with her. So every time she was playing, she was actually taking the whole audience through what's the impact in the future of these glaciers. And then at that one moment, when it's the fossil fuel road and we can all imagine all the glaciers are gone, I asked her, can you play in the dark for 1.5 minutes? And she was like, no, well, so she practiced for 2 weeks to play the part in a minute. So the glacier was disappearing in the back, they played in a minute. And in the audience were 200 people. 200 people, the top from Nature Conservancy, philanthropy, big funders. Not from the art, but actual from the transition towards positive change that we need. And 40 of them came to me and said they cried, which is great, because that's the moment where the organizations who were in the room supporting this work from the scientific side could just tap into their emotions and activate them as their new efficacy pilots, which I really enjoyed. Now, this doesn't make that that art is the savior, but I think it's a good tool to harvest emotions. And I also think it's something that, well, I still want to stick my head in the ground every now and then, and I think we all have the same, who just wants to stick our head in the ground and just go on. with their lives? No? 1, 2, 3, 18? Yeah? Well, and I think it's something that we need to do more often. Because as an ending, under the ground, something amazing is happening. Under the ground, the trees are communicating to each other. Under the ground, they share the nutrients, they share the water, they share the resources. They keep each other strong and healthy as one. And it's such a political message that I love. And we rebuilt a complete root system out of recycled plastics. We took the data from Stefano Mancuso's lab, how truth pines and mycelium are communicating. We trained the data. They keep communicating on the ground, and we have sensors in the room which react on the visitors, showing them how they are part of that ecosystem by breathing, by being a part of it, showing how it actually works as a piece that maintains the balance in this world, because this is a system that has been evolved for 400 million years. Like, we cannot do better. So this is the reminder. And with that, I want to thank you, and I hope this is okay. I went a bit over time, but John did the same, so it's fine.
Thank you very much. So our roundtable is about how to scale up the action, and the collaboration between UNESCO and an artist, and you will talk about it also, Myriam, and also Alexandre, because you also provide a support to make it happen. That kind of collaboration is quite unique and new. But there are other ways of, scaling up, gathering people in a balanced way from the global south, and to try to represent a community, to share the same advocacy, the same goal, to bring the culture at its right place within the climate action. So Samuel Rubin, tell us more about you. And you have slides, maybe you, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Alice, and thank you, everyone. This has been a very inspiring convening so far, and I'm learning so much. A little bit about my background to contextualize my perspective and where I'm coming from. I'm a social impact producer, and I work in entertainment, and I've been in the creative industry for now more than 15 years. I started as a young child actor, and since a very early age, it was clear to me that entertainment can be a tool for transformational positive impact, and I'm sure many of you agree, and that's why we're here in the room together. And so I started collaborating in many different initiatives, and I went to UCLA next to the beautiful Garance Center, where I hang out many times. And I co-founded the Hollywood Climate Summit as well, and working with a lot of different entertainment professionals and seeing the connection between climate and culture has been a deep passion of mine, which is why I started collaborating 6 years ago with the UNCCC, the UN Climate Change, in forming the first sectoral engagement initiative for entertainment and culture called ECA. And that's how I went to my first COP in Sharm el-Sheikh in 2022. And I don't know if you have ever been to a COP before, but when you walk inside of the Blue Zone, the official area of negotiation, if you are a creative person, like many of us here, it feels like you are a transplant. It feels like, wait, where am I? What's going on here? And part of that is because inherently in a place like COP, you have, obviously the negotiation, but you also have pavilion spaces, and it becomes quickly apparent that that marketplace of ideas is one that is still dominated by concrete tactical interests and by an agenda that is not the agenda that we are discussing here today. Like Mohammed said earlier about the connection between the ecological crisis and working class issues and so forth. And one of the things that shocked me the most in the Blue Zone the first time was to see that the oil petroleum exporting countries, OPEC, have 2 pavilions, not 1, but 2 pavilions in the Blue Zone. And they were, bragging about energy security and creating all these side events and putting these ideas in the mainstream. And I couldn't see a single space where cultural practitioners like us will have their own platform to share what we are doing and the culture-based climate solutions that are already delivering results. And so when you see that gap, it's not a surprise that the Paris Agreement doesn't mention culture. The Sustainable Development Goals don't mention culture. And that trickles down into lack of climate finance for culture-based climate action. That trickles down into less cooperation between different multi-stakeholders to make sure that the creative industries, which have a huge footprint environmentally and socially, are embedded in the climate ambition, in the climate agenda that need to be ambitious and grounded in different stakeholders like us. So that's why, with others, we co-founded the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion, which is a humble, youth-led intergenerational space where we bring people and organizations like Art of Sense 21, like many others, who have already been organizing in previous COPs for a long, long time, but never had before an actual space inside at the epicenter that they could call their own. And so you can see here a few of the programs that we did the first year in Dubai, where the interdisciplinary nature of the programming is very important to engage negotiators in more than just a panel, more than just a conversation. Because when you are walking by COP and you see a rapper singing, or you see a painter, being political and creating policy with their tools, it makes a difference. And it inspires those people to go to the negotiation room and bring those ideas to the table. And so this has been something that we have been doing, not just at the UN Climate Change COP, as we recently did in COP30 Belém as well, but also at the Biodiversity COP, also at Mondia Called in Barcelona last year, because we know that a lot of gaps in policy are also showcased in the UN agencies, silos that sometimes we need to work as civil society and government to bridge. And so what I want to mention to you first, of course, an invitation to collaborate, because the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion is an open initiative to engage folk like many of you, but also to point that this is not just about simply hosting events and having conversations at strategic policy spaces. This is also about influencing, shaping, and actively participating in policy making as well. And one of the takeaways from COP28 precisely was that not only was the first time in 28 COPs that there was a dedicated space to culture in the Blue Zone, but it was also the year that the first global stocktake was launched. I don't know if some of you are familiar with what the global stocktake is.
Who knows what global stocktake is?
It's basically the mechanism of the Paris Agreement that requires parties to report their progress and accountability in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. And when Camille said earlier, this is not just about a statement, this is about implementation, that's also what the stocktake process is about. It's taking stock of what's happening, what are the gaps, what are the next steps we need to tackle. And so, because culture has never been recognized in the text other than cultural heritage in Global Goal of Adaptation, Article 7, which is very necessary as well, but that's just one dimension of culture and climate. A coalition of many partners, including Art of Sense 21 and others, have now started co-writing, co-developing a collaborative framework called the Culture Global Stocktake, which is a reclamation of what the Global Stocktake did. And it's an inventory, you could say, of the different peer-reviewed evidence that we need to present to parties and negotiators to showcase to them, hey, this matters. You actually need culture in the room to get this done and to make sure that we tackle the bigger challenge we're facing as humanity. And so the basis and the foundation of the Culture Global Stocktake is around the culture ecosystem, which recognizes different layers of culture, not just as a creative sector, which is super important because, of course, we're creating goods and services, and we have more than 1.5 trillion dollars and 3-4% of the GDP and 50 million employment worldwide. All of that matters a lot. But this is also about the infrastructure that we have as society, like a space like that where we meet today, or our values and the way we respond to crisis, our language, our heritage, our wisdom. And so this is why we have now started collecting and movement building around the Culture Global Stocktake, which will be formally launched at COP31 with the goal of getting culture recognized in the upcoming Global Stocktake, which will happen in 2028, COP33, because Stocktake happen every 5 years. And there is already great efforts happening underway, like for instance, France and the Ministry of Culture is a part of the group of friends, more than 55 parties that are already organizing to make sure that culture is included in climate action policy making. But that's 55 of 195. And so we still need 140 more. And to do that, we want to organize a global coalition that, of course, you are all invited to. And now we are in the midst of this collaborative co-writing process, which means that people are submitting inputs from all over the world to identify in which ways culture influences climate policy, following the same structure of the global stocktake, which means in adaptation, in mitigation, in climate finance, in capacity building, in technology. There is so many ways that we can showcase that. That's why the document is 30 pages long, and that's why it has more than 180 specific commitments and paragraphs that also showcase the important work that UNESCO is doing that sometimes is not present in the other UN agencies, because in Mondial Call, for instance, last year, you already have more than 190 parties saying, hey, climate is very important in our work as ministries of culture, but wait, why are those parties then not making the same effort to put that on the agenda on the UNCCC? So that's why we want to build those bridges. And this picture that you see here is from the Marrakech Partnership Accelerator that we hosted a couple months ago, where Alice is somewhere around, and we did the first draft together with inputs from all over the world. The UNCCC was there as well, different ministries as well, and COP30 presidency. And so we're doing this as a grassroots effort, but one that also centers the voices of artists, because the last thing I'll say is that, when Mohammed earlier said in his intervention how he feels about, his role as an artist, he also reminded us of why it matters to have artists in the room in the policy-making spaces, because those are the ones who are also grounding us in the reality that we share, and that's what policy-making should look like, So often we are disenfranchised and disencouraged with, oh my God, UN doesn't work, the government doesn't work. But that's also because we have to play an active role in preserving democracy and active citizenship participation. And so that's one opportunity to do that in the cultural sector. I'm very encouraged that so many people are already proposing ideas. Gallery Climate Coalition also submitted their input already for the stocktake. Art of Sense, and we still have months ahead to collect more input. So I invite you to read the first draft. We also have virtual plenaries happening this Thursday and Friday that if you go to the website, you'll find how to participate. And also open to speak to anyone later if you have any questions about the process. Thank you.
And when you talk about this Culture Global Stocktake, and when you say it's a document which looks like a global stocktake, a real one, for people from the creative sector, it's like, playing with a very, very, normative document where, with paragraph thematics within a frame of UN climate. So it's an exercise of adaptation for creative people. Thank you very much, Samuel. Miriam, so from the UNESCO perspective, so first, what is your role? And you have already collaborated with artists and, of course, with the cultural sector, and you have a vision, and we are very glad to have you as, you know, an ally and a friend at UNESCO, because you believe in this relationship between the two, even to solve environmental challenges. So tell us more about it. And as we are talking about how to scale up, you know, our action, how can, you know, which role can you play, and how can you help this ecosystem to be more effective?
Thank you very much, and thank you especially to Alice for organizing this event. It's thanks to Alice.
It's a team. It's a team. You say Alice. It's Patricia, the director of the festival. It's all Art of Change 21 team.
So to Alice, that can spread it to the team, and we all know that whatever we do, there is a team behind us. And it's thanks to Alice, that's for sure, that I met Thais a few years ago with Alexandre, and that a very nice partnership and story began. And Thais showed you some concrete example. And I also look forward to have another cooperation and partnership with Samuel that we are starting together. From my perspective as UNESCO, I'm coming from the scientific world. I'm coming from science, and my expertise is on economics for biodiversity. And even in UNESCO, now biodiversity is becoming an overall strategic objective. And maybe the first message I want to share is that from my experience and the work we are doing together with the beautiful artists and also with a private company like LVMH, it's that we need to have a change of mindset and narrative, and it's a systemic approach. So everything is interconnected. I think that more and more people are aware of that. So I don't think there is a word, maybe in some indigenous knowledge culture, there are different words to express how everything is interconnected. Maybe we fail to do in some of our Western world. But for me, climate change is we have to tackle the climate change issue with the biodiversity, and it's interdependent, and we are part of nature. I really rely and endorse what the artist Mohammed said earlier. We are part of nature. Our body, everything that we do, the food that we are eating, the air that we breathe is because of this amazing, unique planet that we are living in. And I think so one of the key work that we are doing is repeat and teach through education and schools and our training program and in our science and in our culture that we are interconnected and that we human, we are one species living among other species. And there are many developments that are really interesting to follow, including in the law, where, as you know, there are more and more recognition that some rivers, some part of what we call nature as it was external of us, which is not, has rights. So there are many things that have changed since I joined UNESCO, but one of the positive aspects is that I think, and that together we can also repeat again and again, showcase, demonstrate, like the work of the artists that were presented today, that we are interdependent and that everything is connected. So for me, it's not climate and biodiversity on one side. We have to look at that holistically and systematically. That's what we do in many of our programs, not only scientific, and I'm very glad that our new Director General, Mr. Khaled El-Anani, for the first time has merged the two sectors, and even the word sectors is dividing. But that now we're going to have only one science that includes natural and social and human science. And I think this is something, this is also a signal that we have to have all this knowledge and indigenous knowledge together. So my first message would be to continue to work and have partners to work on this systemic approach, and that we feel, and we are part of this, what we call nature, that we are part of this planet, and that we have the chance to live on this planet that is providing for all life on Earth. and including our lives. The second, I would say, with what we have done, the concrete example is that we speak different languages. The natural sciences speak different languages, and they have different norms, and they have different criteria. The social sciences are different. Indigenous knowledge is also different, but there are ways that we can cooperate, and there are ways that we can talk together. And the work that was, for example, that we designed with Alexandre, with the support of LVMH, the work of Thais, is really showing that there is a way that we can understand each other. There are ways that we don't speak the same language. Now we speak English. I'm more fluent in French. I would be more deep and more profound in French because it's my native language. But that we can find a way to communicate. And I think this is what we have to do now. To upscale, we have to change the mindset, think more holistically, but also find concrete ways and program and activities and action, including with the artist, to speak languages to the business sector. And that's going to be very interesting, the perspective of Alexandre. You know, in my perspective, this life, it's becoming very polarized. I know that there are some spirituality that say that we are here on earth because we are here to learn about duality. Because with every quality, there is a default. If you don't have the sun, you don't have the night. But I think that we are reaching the age of polarity. And we can see it in our society. We can see that people are more and more polarized, that we are asked to choose a camp and to say, I'm against this or I'm with you. But the life, and we can see it around us, is much more diverse than this. The diversity of languages that we are losing, and UNESCO is trying to make sure that we are not losing the languages. It's very important because the language we use are showing that we have different representation of the world, and all the different people who speak all these amazing languages have a different vision of this planet, not only one. So we have to tap in this diversity, and we have to learn to be humble and to understand that maybe I have my knowledge, my experience, but other people have other knowledge, other experience. And we have to find ways, platforms, spaces where people can feel safe to speak and to share their vision and what they learn. So my vision at UNESCO is that we help with our different programs from culture education and the sciences to provide this safe space where people feel that they can speak, they can talk, they can share their experience and their vision, and that it's accepted and respected. And that we need that more than ever in this world where the tendency is to tap in our fears and divide us and try to make us in different camps. So if you're not with me, you're against me. No, I can still be your friend, discuss with you, and I don't agree with some of your ideas, but that doesn't mean that I'm against you. So the debate, the nuance, the diversity is something that UNESCO is willing and supporting through its different programs, because this is key. It's complex, as you said, Thais, but this is the reason we are alive, because we observe around each other, we observe the diversity of life. Why so many forms? Why so many colors? Why so many cultures? There is a meaning behind that, and we have to embrace that, and we have to be, willing to show that. So I think artists have a key role in helping to show that there is diversity of representation of who we are as human beings and how we interact with other species very differently, and how we can live in this planet without destroying it. And that's my third message. There are drastic things happening now, and the economic has been more destroying the environment and what we call nature than before. But there are solutions, like Thais said, and there are ways, and there are cultures, and there are ways of living and values that show that we can, as a human species, live in harmony with other species. And that everywhere in the planet. And we have the proof at UNESCO. We have different programs like the Man and the Biosphere program, where you have people living in places, and that since 50 years, 60 years, that UNESCO recognized them, but even before, that they know how to live on Earth without destroying it. So we have solutions economically, socially, culturally, that we can prove that, and that we can show the way without imposing, but inspiring people that there are solutions. So I think this is the challenge that we have with the upscaling, is that to talk more about what is possible, like you said, what is feasible, make people dream that there is something that is possible to create. It's happening already now, and that we can bring everybody on board. And to come back on the polarity and the duality, I think art and culture, like science, can bring everybody together. And we have to find ways and events and modalities of sharing these emotions, but with facts. Facts are very important, especially these days, with all the fake news and things that are happening. But that we can design events, programs, using, even the TV and the media to include everybody. People should not feel excluded. Art should not be something that is for, an elite. There are events that we can do together, and I know many artists are doing that show that everybody is part of this planet, everybody has something to say, everybody can contribute, to give value to everyone, even those people that maybe today we consider as our opponents or adversary, and we should not that. And I really believe that such partnership can help to include everybody, so people are not that frustrated, that they are excluding from power decision, that they are excluded from an economic reality that is real, that we have to address, but that maybe together with the art and the power of the economy also, change the narrative. No economy that is destroying, an economy that is relying on the wealth, and the only wealth is the biodiversity and all what life is providing to us. And so there are companies that are now showing that they are understanding that they are completely aware that we are completely dependent on what we call nature, and that we should address that. And so there are signs of hopes that we should share together, and hopefully we can change the narrative together. Thank you so much.
So, Alexandre Capelli.
Yes, I'll be quick.
Yeah, we're 1 hour late. No, but no, and
yeah, this one, yes.
No,
that's your fault.
It's very important. I wanted the public to know a bit more about what a huge luxury group like LVMH is doing regarding sustainability.
And this is a boring slide. This is a boring slide, but she wants me to do it, so I'll be super quick.
No, it's not a boring slide. It's action, and I think that.
I can sing it, maybe.
I just want to share an anecdote. So as Miriam told you, and so I made the connection between Taj Birsteker, UNESCO, and LVMH at the occasion of the IUCN World Congress, where Art of Change in Marseille 2021, where Art of Change 21 was presenting a major exhibition on biodiversity, and we wanted to have a piece dealing with deforestation by Taj. And so there was the question of financing it and to get the right data, real-time data on deforestation from UNESCO. So, and then maybe it doesn't happen that often at LVMH. Taj, when I said to Taj, oh, LVMH might finance it, Taj said, oh, stop. I will not say yes before I ask questions. And so I had to organize a meeting where Taj would ask very precise questions And for me, as at Art of Change 21, we are always on the side of artists, even if we are also funded by foundations or large companies. And Taj said, no, I will not say okay for a partner if I learn that they are, involved in any deforestation, action. So, and then I will always remember this moment where Taj, the artist, validated by LVMH among many other names, like the big winner of a competition, said, no, they're in one step before I validate LVMH as my sponsor. And I think that today we were talking about lack of money, lack of support, but it's not a reason to say yes and to not start a dialogue from the start before a project, especially when we talk about sustainability, when it's dealing about collaborative and general interest and how to work together.
Yeah, thank you. So very quickly, the idea is not me to introduce the whole LVMH environmental strategy, just to explain that the environmental department is existing now for 30 years, more than 30 years. I was not there at the beginning, of course, but the current strategy is called Life 360. You can see here we are 5 main pillars for creative circularity. It's mainly about sustainable design, eco-design, traceability, transparency, climate, and stakeholder. Again, I won't introduce the details, but just coming back to ties, at this time in 2019, 2020, COVID time, by the way, we are discussing the three of us, and we had with UNESCO this huge program focusing on the Amazon, and we have set the target to achieve zero deforestation within our value chain. What does it mean for LVMH? It's mainly focusing first on wood, paper, and cardboard. We have packaging as every single company, so ensuring that we have no deforestation here, focusing on leather, and we have banned skin sourcing from South America in 2021. A little bit of palm oil in some cosmetics, not as big as food company, but still we are using a small amount of palm oil from Indonesia, Malaysia mainly. So that's the three main topic for LVMH, and we are doing a lot. We are assessing our deforestation intensity every year. Today, we can say that it's around 220 hectares every year. It's 0.05% of our global soil footprint. So it's not zero, we are close to zero. And in the meantime, we have European regulation, the EU, they are. Again, I don't want to enter too much detail, but Europe is regulating deforestation, hopefully at the end of the year. So just to say how to achieve this roadmap, 23, 26, 2030, of course, first regulation. Boring stuff, but we have a lot of regulation everywhere, mainly in Europe, but also in the US, not necessarily at the federal level, but many regulation at the state level, California, New York, and more Asia, China, Japan are regulating a lot. Second level, I would say competition. We are all moving, hopefully, companies in the more on the right direction, but hopefully in the right direction. So competition is also a lever. Reputation. Today, I think you know that we are speaking of sustainability every day in media. Consumer demand. Consumer demand is also a lever for us to act. If people in stores are asking for organic wine, organic perfumes, organic cotton, it will help us to accelerate. And of course, I would say more like corporate internal target. But all this lever, all these KPIs are mainly talking to brain. And we also need, and I come back to what you said at the beginning, we also need to speak to the heart, to speak to the souls, and heart is definitely a way to speak to soul. So that's why I think for now many years we are collaborating with you, Alice, because yes, we are quite convinced that of course we do have creative internally at LVMH. We have creative director in fashion, in perfumes, but they are not pure artists. When you design outfits, it first have to be comfortable, to have quality, but it's not pure art. Pure artists are you, and this is the only way to speak to soul and to provide emotion. And we do think that it's also a way to help us to achieve this kind of science-based target. So if I go to To the next, yes, maybe, yes. So that's why, yes, we are collaborating together for now many years. The first collaboration was, it's always at COP with ties. We have collaborated in many COPs. Our COP, yes, COP, it's a UN event, so you have 3 big COPs. The biggest one you all know is the Climate COP. The second one, the medium one, is Biodiversity COP. And the small one is the Biodiversity, the COP Soil and Desertification. And this year is a bit special. It's a triple COP year. So we'll have soil and desertification, UNCCD in August in Ulaanbaatar, COP biodiversity in October, Erevan, Armenia, and COP climate in late November in Turkey, Antalya. So yes, it's really strange because we are facing, I would say, a very uncertain geopolitical landscape. But at the same time, we have this triple COP year. So let's see what will gonna happen. We won't attend the 3 of them. It's too much travel, too many travels, too many planes. So just one of them. For LVMH, not the climate, not the biodiversity, but the small one, the soil one, which is, we do think is the most promising one. So let's see what will happen. So we are collaborating with ties in Marseille, as you mentioned. We also have collaborated in COP15 Biodiv in Montreal with Econario. You already talked about it. We also collaborated for Amazonium, which was for UNESCO General Conference in Paris. Amazonium, maybe you can talk about Amazonium. It was a...
No,
no,
sorry.
we don't have time. No, Amazonium. Okay. So just to showcase that, yes, many cooperation, and we are really convinced that this type of cooperation between artists, UN bodies, and corporate companies like us is also a way for us internally at LVMH, but also externally, to speak to soul, to speak to provide emotion, and not only to share KPIs every year in an annual report, which is necessary, and we have to do that, I agree. But also to have this additional layer of emotions. And we are also supporting students, young creation. Maybe you know we have partnership with many schools all over the world, but the main one is with Central St. Martin's in London, which is a creative school, focusing, they have fashion, of course, but not only. They have jewelry, architecture, but they also have many artistic paths. And every year, so we provide scholarship, but every year we also have the Green Awards for fashion and jewelry, but for now 3 years, we have this Earth Award, which is an award that focusing on art students and sustainability. So again, it's now for 3 or 5 years, so it's many winners. But just to showcase the 2 last one about Anthropocene and the other one about how fragile can be landscape. Again, I don't have time to enter details, but just to showcase that, yes, we are also supporting students, and some of our Maison are also collaborating with you, but also with Central St. Martin, sur Ruinart, especially Garance, are 2 Maisons that are very dedicated to art, and it's also a way for us to integrate students and artistic students and to see how, again, we can generate new feeling with them. So very quickly, I'm sorry, I know that we are missing time, but it's okay? I stop here?
You want to? I think it's very interesting because usually in the art world we have the people from the art side of LVMH, and here we have the environmental side. And to learn how you see art, what do you do with artists, how you understand what art can bring for your own ecological transition, I think is very interesting, because when you make that kind of decision, it's the decision of the environment department, and you know, and sometimes my feeling is that the environment department goes beyond the artistic department of the group in a way to understand the connection between art and sustainability. So we are very glad to have you. Patricia wants me to close. I'm absolutely sorry. Their frustrations is growing, like people told me. We have so many questions, but we are accelerating to save time. All together at the end, around the buffet to be able to all talk together for about 30 minutes. I think you all answered the question about upscaling because you presented, how to imagine how the connection between art, the environment can bring more perspective, and how to collaborate together, and especially between an artist, an institution, with a company, and with you, as Samuel. We know that you are starting to collaborate also with UNESCO. So we know, and already with the UN environment. So major institution. So we think that all together we have to create a very strong network, to work more together, to share more information and events like this, so we can, accelerate and try to achieve our common goal. Thank you very much.